Well, our conversation across the continent continues today on The Square. We've looked at the Gulf of Guinea, and one other sore point that we haven't actually looked at has to do with the Niger-Delta region. You know, there's something about peace. It comes with a price, and the Niger-Delta region has seen relative peace. But what's been happening there is something that we must look at the moment. Welcome to VSA. I'm Sulaiman. You know, Niger-Deltans have complained about their well-being and threats to their livelihood by oil exploration activities in the region. And of course, this is home to some of the world's biggest deposits of oil. Nigeria's Niger-Delta still suffers from underdevelopment, youth unemployment, and poverty. Now, the attacks, many say, are the reactions of an angry people. Now, former commander of the Movement for the Emancipation of Niger-Delta MEND and a core advocate of the development of the Niger-Delta region, he's also a Niger-Delta activist and a leading voice in the region. He's amongst the very first to accept the amnesty granted by Nigeria's former president, late Umar Yar'Adua, in 2009. Boyloaf Ebikabowe, he's a security consultant and, of course, an ex Niger-Delta agitator. Welcome to Village Square, Africa.
You're welcome.
Well, good to see you on the show. Many thanks for finding time to join us for the cause of the region. You know, the activities of the Niger-Delta, militants in the Gulf of Guinea, because we've been looking at all of that before we come to your region specifically. Is it to send a message to Nigerians or to the people around the Gulf of Guinea?
Well, I can say the present activities of the Niger-Delta Agitator militant is to show the sign of a failure in the part of this administration. The peace that was inherited from the previous government, the peace that was inherited from the previous government could not be sustained and maintained as it was meant to be. All the apparatus put in place to maintain peace in the Niger-Delta has been wrongly managed. It's been wrongly managed in the past years. For example, the NDDC is a parastatal that was set out to manage conflict within the Niger-Delta region and also to put in place infrastructural development to maintain peace. But with what is happening right now in the management of this NDDC seems to be a movie. So I think it's a failure on the part of the system not to show the sign, because if you can remember, during the time of the proclamation, Ipila made a statement, and it's on record, that we'll keep to the part of our bargain, and if the government failed to do their own, that the youths that is coming after us will be disastrous and dangerous. And that was one message I sent. But, governments, as it may be, governments is an institution that never keeps to agreement.
Let me come in here. Sorry to butt in. Let me come in here, because I also recall, yes, you making that statement because you were among the very first set to accept amnesty granted by President Yar'Adua. But based on the role, we'll come back to the NDDC, which you also highlighted, but based on the role played by the government of Bayelsa State in facilitating amnesty for the Niger-Delta militants, do you think it can still be effective towards the security threats within the region, considering the recent pockets of threats from various groups and the invasion of the prisons in Imo State?
The Bayelsa State, we'll talk about the involvement of the Bayelsa State in the amnesty process as at inception. I think that was when Tinubu Silva was there, and before other government took over, and the other government was less concerned about the peace and everything. But the present government on board is a product of the struggle So I think this present government of Bayelsa State will be so much effective, and they will also want to spend even their energy to make sure they keep peace and maintain it.
So at the moment, what is the vibe? What's the information you're getting from the Bayelsa State government concerning ex-agitators and the development of the region?
I think the present government is going around making peace and putting everybody together to make sure they achieve the goal they are looking for. And with the effort the governor is putting across consulting different critical stakeholders in the region, I think we achieve whatever he's looking for. And we also commend him for his effort, and he should keep on with it. And I think with all this level of approach, there is no way he will fail, because as a product of the struggle, he knows what to do at the right time.
Is there any other role, apart from what you highlighted, that the NDDC should be playing at the moment to bring about peace and development to the oil-rich Niger-Delta region?
Let me tell you something. You see, NDDC as a parastatal was set up just to maintain peace in Niger-Delta and also some infrastructural development. And if you look into the time when people like Timi Aledeh were operating in NDDC, Timi Aledeh was reaching up to the grassroots. Timi Aledeh, I was down in the creek in the peak of the crisis. A person like Timi Aledeh as the MD as at then get contact with even the major critical stakeholders and seek their own opinion and what is the necessary thing to be done to maintain peace. Do you know that I will tell you that Timi Aledeh made one thing that surprised me? At the peak of the crisis, Timi Aledeh released electrification to different communities that I advised him to do, and he did it. About 500 kVA journey released up to 10. You can imagine such a person reaching up to the grassroots. Won't he help the government a long way? He will.
So at the moment,
the present management of NDDC, what they are doing is just 2023 politicking and also movie, nothing more. They are not reaching out. They are just fooling the critical stakeholders, going close to them, fool them and run away and run their show. That is all. So I think they are derailing from the real motive why this parastatal was set up for.
But again, at the moment, there is no substantive MD for that, agency. At the moment, what you have is, someone overseeing the agency since after it was enmeshed in crisis. Would you say the crisis is one of the reasons that caused the non-performance of the NDDC in that region?
No, I will not say that, because monies have been allocated to NDDC monthly and they receive their allocation. So what are they using the money to do? Is it to solve crisis? It's not to solve their own internal crisis. It's supposed to be something that you use in maintaining the region. So that shouldn't be an excuse. I think even now that there is crisis, this is the best time for them to go even up to the grassroots and know the necessary things to be done. Crisis.
Sorry again to cut you there. You're a grassroots person, and I think now is the time for us to start asking questions of people like yourself, so that perhaps the administrator, because there is a sole administrator in the NDDC at the moment, so that the sole administrator should be able to know some of the key things that the people want. So would you share, please, those things that you expect of the sole administrator of the NDDC?
The first thing to do, even the sole administrator cannot be reached. That is number one. And these people, they don't even want to know. If they want to know, they will contact the stakeholders and they will know what they will hear what the right thing to be done. So when the people they don't want to know what else will you do? You will leave them to be moving. All what they do is to move with politicians and all the rest. But we are just watching at them. We are watching closely. So there is nothing you can do when the people doesn't want to know what is happening in the region. All they care about is about politics moving around in Abuja. So there is nothing you can do. You can't help it. You can't teach them their job.
You know, the good thing is you taking your time to grant this interview, and you are a major stakeholder in that region. And I know if the sole administrator or the government of Nigeria, you know, listens to what you have to say, there'll be a reaching out. If you say that the sole administrator has been unreachable. So why don't you share some of the key things you would want to see the NDDC do in the region?
Mohammed, I think it's better we save our energy for another day instead of wasting all this time advising this. The sole administrator is from Niger, is from Niger-Delta. He's a son of the region, and he knows what the Niger-Delta people are lacking, and he knows what to do. It's not the first time. It's not the first time in NDDC. He's an old member of this body. Worked sometime with even Dan Abia. So there is nothing new. There is nothing strange that the sole administrator did not know. So he knows what to do, and they know whatever they will do to keep the region stable. But what they are focusing on this time around is quite different. So I don't think you'll force them. You don't need to waste energy on that.
Because it wouldn't seem as if anyone is wasting any energy. I recall when you did warn to say that those that will come after you, if nothing is done to keep the peace and keep the promise, will be worse. And just recently, we have seen a young man who claims to be representing the Baramatu youth on social media, also, you know, complaining and talking tough about the region. What do you expect, you know, the government to do at this point in time, now that nothing is being done from the NDDC? What can the government do to ensure that development, you know, comes to the region and the peace is maintained in the region?
My brother, I think the first thing I would say, the government, the present administration is even the cause of this very problem, because you don't need to tell them what to do, because what the government, if you keep on talking, you will keep on talking till this century. There's of other. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you will keep on talking till the end. I think government knows the right thing to do. During the time of amnesty, we have agreement about some infrastructural development to be met, and some kind of empowerment, how to carry the Niger-Delta people along through federalism and all the rest. But at the end of the day, you see what government did. Everything that even the previous administration set up, all to maintain peace. When this government came on board, they just destroyed everything. They hijacked everything. Just for imagine, you can imagine where you give a surveillance job to an Duman upland there to be maintaining the security of pipeline in the river. Is it done? It's not done anywhere. So you can see everything that they are doing is politicking. Everything they are doing is politicking. So there is no, even the government itself, if you keep on talking, you will be talking till the year goes on. The only language I believe the Nigerian state as a product of the struggle, language I believe the Nigerian, and it's just the sound of the gun, be done. And politicians will just hijack everything and go away. So I think I don't want to waste my energy in telling the government what to be done, what to be done. But at the right time, I think they will do the right thing.
You know, as Africans, I'm happy we're all Africans. You know, that there are words people say, and you get the meaning. And I know that you have been one of those peaceful agitators for the region. Especially since after the amnesty, and that is why it is very important that the government engages people like yourself who knows what the people truly want. I still want us to look at that very keenly. It is not all the time we can easily reach out to you. So tell us, if you will, what those things that is missing from the region, perhaps so that the government can have an idea, or the people can know what the region is missing from the government.
From this side, come on. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So as I was saying, peace is very hard to come by, and once you inherited peace, you have to maintain the peace properly so that you achieve maybe genuine peace and whatever you do. But as it is now, you know what the Niger-Delta lacks. The Niger-Delta lacks one major thing they lack is infrastructure. You can see even the east-west road that has been going on during the Jonathan administration. After the Jonathan administration, they stopped the construction of the east-west road up to date. So what are you talking? When they stopped the construction, it wasn't the government. The government was supposed to maintain and make sure they finish that place and move from step to step. But the government just stopped this thing. So people took it as maybe a sentiment that it doesn't want to develop the region, coupled with what is going on in the country, So that is why you see people just fed up instead of discussing every time, going to roundtable with the government, discussing about infrastructure, discussing about this and that. I was in support of this government at the first place, thinking that good things will go on. But at the end of the day, what I saw was just a jamboree. Pockets of different cliques upon cliques running the shoes of the system and all the rest. And by the time you tell them the real thing that they are supposed to do, at the end of the day, one politician will go his way and maybe frustrate everything for their own selfish interest. You see? So that is why you see, and people don't want to waste their energy. But to me, I will tell you that when the time comes, I think government knows the critical stakeholder to invite for a meeting and hold serious meeting to see how they will bring about peace and the development the people needs. But for now, I don't think the government really wants to attend to all those answers, So that is my own belief. So that is why I don't want to waste my own time. If you can see so many of the leaders, they don't care. Everybody goes their own way because they feel these governments are not sincere. The government are not sincere. That is why you see people are going away from the system. Nobody wants to follow up with the system. And you see what is going on. So there is nothing we can do about it. So but for now, let's see what is happening. If the government really wants to develop the region, they will call the stakeholders, the critical stakeholders. We have elders and all the rest to see, So I don't think the government really wants to do it for now. So when the government wants it, they will call. So
as an agitator for the region, has the cleanup started? The cleanup of the Niger Delta, has it started?
That cleanup was just a drama. The cleanup was a drama. It's laughable, man. So they don't use that to delete this.
Because it was right in the news that there was going to be the cleanup of the Niger Delta, especially after the court ruling with its shell, and the government did say there was a timeline for the cleanup in the region.
My brother, I don't know if any cleanup is going on. So all what they are saying, maybe just a media cleanup or whatever. But for now, as far as we are concerned, we have not seen anything going on.
The saddest part is to think that some of the Niger Deltans are at the helm of affairs in this administration and in key positions like the NDDC and the Ministry of the Niger Delta. What's the conversation with these sons and daughters of the region who are in government concerning the region?
I think what I would say, the only person that is more caring and really wants to help in bringing about a genuine peace in the region is the last administrator of this amnesty that was just they just put in place. Because the past ones they've been using, all those ones were just people that they are just retired and tired people that doesn't know anything. So about NDDC and Niger Delta Ministry, they've not said anything about bringing about development in the region. What they are facing is quite different. It's quite different, fighting with each other about the NDDC and all the rest. Even the Niger Delta Ministry has like the Niger-Delta ministry you are seeing, the Niger-Delta people, that's the just fought on the creation of this very ministry. But with what is happening in that very ministry about Niger-Delta, it's just like a ethnic sentiment. It's just like ethnic sentiment. Currently, the administrator of the amnesty is right on track, but the rest are not doing anything. The present administrator of this amnesty has a listening ear. He has a vast experience with because he has traveled wide and worked with diplomats. So I think that Colonel Dikio is the best to mount any position about it. But for now, the Akpabio-led government, they are not doing anything. Once you go there, just like you're in the Akwa Ibom government house. That is what is happening in NDDC right now. So I don't think anything is going on. Nobody is happy with them. We are not happy with them. Formerly, we wanted to work with them and help them about with what we saw. It's just politicking. They are just running about 2023, how to that power tussle one way or the other. So there is nothing we can do. We just we are watching closely. We are watching closely and to see what they are doing. But at the right time, I think we will speak out.
And before that right time comes, I'm sure you have also been concerned as a Nigerian, seeing what has been going on across the country, bandits across all geopolitical zones. Share, if you will, some of those key things that brought about peace in the Niger-Delta region. Let's see if we can apply same to solving the problem of bandits and across the country.
So in Nigeria, see where they call on armed robbers, thieves, killers for peace. It's only in Nigeria. I think we have a government. The government is supposed to sort, because there is no way you can compare what happens in Niger-Delta with what they call bandit. Because with my own belief, bandit means criminal, armed robbers. Because our struggle is quite different from them. Our struggle is quite different from them because, one, the Niger-Delta people did not kill innocent people. We struggle for it. We fight for a just cause. And the cause that we were fighting for was mentioned. We mentioned what we are fighting for. We fight for true federalism, marginalization, infrastructural development. But if the bandits are fighting for anything, then they should voice out and tell the reason of their fight and kidnapping of school children and all the rest, because it's even against our own law to hurt women and children. So I don't think there is no way you will compare our struggle and bandits. So you don't even mention that, because one thing you got to know, we are very right even in the face of the UN Charter, because let me tell you something. There are 3 ways, legal ways of carrying arms. One is to maintain your territorial integrity. 2, joint security, just like NATO, ECOMOG, and so on. Then 3, emancipation. When people have been marginalized by a certain government, you are very right to raise up arms and free yourself. So there is no way, no relationship between the ex-agitators and bandits.
So, go ahead.
Volume.
I can hear you, and I think we can close here because you've actually said that much. There's no correlation between what the government or the people of Nigeria are witnessing now at the moment and what the country witnessed with the ex-agitators. Quickly, you're just one of the many ex-agitators. Tell us before you leave. What has life been like for others as former agitators who embraced amnesty?
I think life has been fair, and we are following up the way the situation is and our life is. But there is nothing you can do. Since we have embraced amnesty, we cannot indulge in different activities that will go contrary to the peace. Because, like I can tell you categorically, that during the time of crisis, I make more money than even this time of peace. I can tell you that categorically. Because for now, government will just play with you anyhow go away. And even what we have been crying for during the crisis and before the crisis is what is still going on. Because they will still be pushing everything to themselves, to one side, one-sidedly. So there is nothing we can do. We will still maintain peace and as law-abiding citizen and mix up with the people since we've been integrated into the society to mix up. And you see the amnesty in a one way or the other, at least this last person that was being appointed is trying his best to bring people together, to bring people together to maintain peace and to make sure the amnesty works. Because the past one that was set in place from the inception of this administration was just drama and jamboree and people to come and help themselves. But this one has a listening ear. He really wants to maintain the amnesty and bring peace and even redirect the government of what to do and send the message to the right quarters. So, well, we thank God for everything anyway.
No doubt by these words, it shows that you're a man of peace. And quickly, if an invitation, or have you met President Buhari since he's been on the saddle?
Even ministers met President Buhari. Even people in this administration, and many of the analysts, even the president. So me, I've never seen him at all. And the government has never one time since from the inception of this administration invite ex agitators for discussion. So there is nothing of such. We've not. It's only this new man that has been consulting widely with the critical stakeholders in the region, going around to make sure you reach and know the reason why the program is set up and is starting is in line with the program for now. That's the LGBTQ.
Well, I really do hope that we can keep this conversation going because talking about peace, as you rightly said, peace is important and it comes with a price. And for a man of your caliber to have maintained that agreement, that amnesty agreement till this very moment is commendable. And we do hope that we'll keep this conversation going because one thing here on the square is that we look forward to a peaceful, development of that region. That is why we've been asking questions about the cleanup in the Niger-Delta region. And as you say, it looks like the cleanup hasn't actually worked. It's just in the news and not evident in the Niger-Delta region. Thank you very much for your time, Boyloaf Ebikabowe. Do they still call you General? I was going to ask that.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So it's okay if I call you General Boyloaf Ebikabowe, right?
Yeah, okay.
Well, we experienced a glitch in that very last-minute response from Boyloaf Ebikabowe, ex Niger-Delta Agitator. We'll take a moment, and when we come back, we'll be joined by other guests here to look at peace across the continent. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to VSA. If you just joined us, we're looking at security in Africa after that of the Niger-Delta region. But again, looking at the continent, as years passed, more regions on the continent have suffered setbacks and, coming from a lot of bloodshed from the east to the west, north and south of the continent. These are tough times and peace has never been more important. Kenya has reason to make its weapons and protect itself as Nigeria struggles to contain its hydra-headed, multi-dimensional, festering security crisis. Now, joining me from Kenya, Byron Adera, Pioneer Kenya's Special Forces Officer and security expert, and the retired Air Vice Marshal Femi Gbadebo, OFR, a security consultant here in Nigeria. Gentlemen, it's good to have you both on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you.
Well, let me start with you. There's a ridiculous spate of attacks on police structures and policemen in the southeast of Nigeria in recent times. And this is to you, Mr. Ebikabowe, what could be the most attributable reason for this in your country?
Well, you know that IPOB has been a major problem in the Southeast, but also there's a lot of disgruntlement there. A lot of young men are out of work, and coming from the South experience, we've found that the police have been more brutal to the general public in the South than they've been in the North. So the call on the police being your friend has not really manifested the way it should be. And so you find that anger is being meted out. I think the politicians who are representing these areas are also not doing enough to convince their young men and women that they're adequately representing them. They see them in Abuja, and things are working in ways that does not seem to benefit the Southeast, and yet they continue to be there. Appointments and so many things that people are complaining about. I'm not saying that one senator can do much, but at least if they are seen to be speaking out, agitating, and going back home to educate their young men and women about the issues at stake, we will see less of these things happening. When IPOB started, many of them actually tended to support IPOB, support Kanu and so on. And then at some stage, it is as if they've abandoned the discourse. And this is where the real problem lies.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Yeah, I said this is where the problem really lies, because you see, arms are in the hands of people. A lot of, you see, every once in a while, we see the customs intercepting shotguns and light arms, but that's where it ends. We never see a follow-up as to who is importing these things or exactly what is being done with them. So it's all a point of anger. And I think that we have to really work on the relationships. You will see some of the governors, I think like, okay, let me not mention them, but a couple of the governors have come out to say that the Southeast is actually more peaceful now than most parts of the North. We're not hearing of spate of kidnapping. We're not hearing of banditry per se. It's just anger against the security agencies, mainly the police. And of course, when they try to protect themselves against the Fulani herdsmen who are infiltrating their farmlands and try to occupy their territory.
Mr. Ebikabowe, you've raised so many key issues, but everything centers around relationship between the police and the people, relationship between the lawmakers and the people, as well as even other leaders around the region, like the political leaders, the governors. Let me quickly take a trip to Nairobi, Kenya, to Adera. Adera, Kenya's new weapons factory is a darling of the continent, which is no doubt a good development. But on the flip side, does it bring the danger of proliferation of arms on the continent?
Thank you for the question, Sulaiman. Thanks for the observation thereof. And as we discussed this last, I did say that there's a level of optimism on the side of, this part of the world, especially with regards to the coming up of this multi-million, shelling enterprise. And as I did mention at the beginning, it's very optimistically set up with regards to the background processes that did go into place to make sure that the whole strategy from the national security organization thereof, and of course that affects the project, in tune to the last refined millimeter. I'm pretty aware of the developments thereof that have had to take place that brought together several young men. And I'm happy Mr. Femi has the issues of unemployment. So the country looked at the number of young men that are floating out there with a lot of capacity. Nairobi is boasting of being the best innovations hub in Africa at the moment. So you can imagine that kind of capacity resting on the shoulders of the youths that are potentially needed just to be connected to that opportunity. So well over 700 youths assembled and that brought together their expertise and their innovativeness into this space to bring together this kind of project, which is obviously being controlled by several organs within the security machinery. And I sure hope that there's something that can shake a stick at with regards to the kind of meticulous process that went into the equation to ensure that, apart from just being in support of the government's Big Four agenda with regards to, of course, creating employment and all the rest of it, then that we are able to shore up, apart from employment, but of course the macroeconomics, where you're thinking we are going to export this kind of, controlled stores for that matter. Because ideally, on the flip side, as you mentioned, they're coming out with less than 12,000 weapon systems, against the backdrop of what we know in this region, particularly the proliferation of small arms, which by the Geneva paper of 2018 June did actually say, especially for Kenya particularly, we had then more than 600,000 weapon systems in private arms. Those are legal people, owned weapon systems, really crude weapons to almost always, factory grade weapon systems. So that is worrying. My optimism is that on the fact that the control of the proliferation of small arms has had to see some very efforts, especially in regards to the East African community and the collaborative efforts between the countries that are bordering this region. So I'm thinking with those best practices that are able to be followed through, that's the other thing altogether, followed through, so we make sure that the weapon systems are going to be very high grade and not going to find their way into the wrong hands. And that's notwithstanding the fact that there's a lot of good processes within the country. There has to be other processes within the neighboring country that may be benefiting from that balance of trade, and who may, if they have slip-ups here and there, may have those weapon systems in their own hands. And of course, we know because of the cross-border relationships where porous borders here and there, you may just be seeing part of the weapon system sold to other countries beyond this border, get to slip through those porous borders and get to harm individuals well within the country and all those other countries, especially with regards to organized criminal gangs that we know still is a menace, and up to and including terrorist organizations that are out there and are maybe watching this space and possibly have marked this big project as potential target for their terror activities thereof.
Let me come to Femi, because listening to Byron, what readily comes to mind is Nigeria's own attempt. There used to be, a manufacturing plant where the Nigerian military can actually, manufacture its own arms. Is it DICON or DICON? That should be the acronym. So what's the state? Because we're trying to see what Kenya is doing from the east of Africa and see what Nigeria can as well do. Also, you can put this side by side with what you have also raised, talking about the findings by customs regularly, when it comes to catch of arms being stocked or stashed somewhere. But again, first of all, let's look at the manufacturing of arms. Is Nigeria also thinking of going the Kenyan way?
No, Nigeria has been manufacturing arms right from the 60s when the Defense Industries Corporation in Kaduna was incorporated. They've gone to advanced levels where they've the 7.63 rounds of ammunition are now being produced in large number. Virtually most of the 7.63 rounds that are used in Nigerian operations are produced there in Kaduna. We've also produced some light armored vehicles. So in terms of arms and ammunition and support equipment, we're doing extremely well. When you consider that most of the Nigerian troops are armed with AK-47s, which use the 7.63 rounds of ammunition, that shows that we are able to produce virtually everything that we require in Nigeria presently. Of course, there are some sophisticated weapons that are also being brought in for special forces. We are yet to go into production of those ones. Now, the problem with this kind of, when you're producing such large quantities, is that occasionally some will fritter away. You remember there was a period some time ago when some Nigerian army officers were caught actually selling arms to the insurgents. And there's also been instances where some people will retire from the arms manufacturing factory or be laid off for one reason or the other, and they're going with the knowledge base. So what this has done is to really enhance the quality of locally produced guns, pistols, and others. These are the ones you find in the hands of, the small bandits, young men and women who are into armed robbery and all over the place. But I think in terms of overall production, we're doing well. And as long as the army can beef things up, because there's a record, even when soldiers go out with arms, let's say they're given 20 rounds, when they come back, they must account for each round that is expended. Unfortunately, we have a different approach from the police, the mobile police as they are. That's why I'm sure you must have heard that sometimes if they go into an area, they just start shooting into the air to let people know they're around and so on. That's because in their own system, they're not really accounting for arms the way the military is accounting for arms. So that can also create situations where rounds are getting into the wrong hands.
Before I go to Byron, just a minute here, I'll come back to you. Let me follow up on this with Femi. It has to do with the war against Boko Haram. At the moment, I recall then experts like yourself, they were saying that the Nigerian troops must hurry up to push the insurgent deeply out of the country because the rains were coming. Now that the rains are here, it would seem as if it's bad business for the insurgents as well as the troops. That brings us into your area of expertise, the Air Force. What should they be doing at this point in time if the terrain becomes almost impossible for both the Nigerian forces as well as the terror group?
Well, first of all, when you get into this kind of bad weather period, the terror groups will have to spend a lot of time in camps. The movement is restricted to, areas that are accessible. So the interesting thing is that a lot of northern Nigeria is covered in marshy areas. When we're flying, we have two maps. We have the dry season map and the rainy season map. In the dry season map, you just see lines and so on the map, which shows where a stream would be, but it would be dry. In rainy season, not just is the stream now full, it actually overflows. So you have a lot of marshy areas where, access is extremely limited. Now, for the Air Force to be effective, you need a lot of information because it is when you get the information and you're able to pinpoint exactly where they are, that the Air Force can come in. Because the Air Force, yes, unless there's a thunderstorm, they're not really restricted. They can come in and drop the bombs or rockets and so on to totally incapacitate these troops. So, and this is it. If they are encamped in an area, all these motorized equipment they have, all these motorcycles that they have would be easier to, attack and destroy. So I just hope that we can get adequate information. We're dealing in a difficult period now. We're seeing situations where information is given, or intelligence comes in, the Air Force plans their operations. By the time they get there, the insurgents have actually moved because somehow, either within the system itself, there are people who are giving feedback, or something, or maybe the people who are actually giving the intelligence from the villages and remote areas are also working at cross purposes.
Which is very bad. Let me quickly bring in Byron here. Byron, Kenya battled Al-Shabaab. We can say they've largely won that because they've been driven out of that country and now operate in Somalia. So what's the existential threats of terrorism in Kenya at the moment?
Well, thanks, Sulaiman. I mean, since Kenya went to war with the Al-Shabaab in 2011, and I'm proudly saying this because I participated in the preparatory stages where, before the actual invasion did take place in 2011, I was still part of the Kenya Special Forces of Pioneer, and we were charged with clandestine operations that did take place in and across the borders in order to prepare for the actual invasion that did take place in 2011, thereabouts. Fairly much, and I've been in support of what Femi has said. I mean, information and intelligence in its exacting form is very, very important. A general in the US once said that information pathology becomes absolutely dangerous. That is, availability of information, sometimes in insufficient form or shape or quantities, or in terms of the value and the thereof, or when that information is not protected by what we call operational security measures, to an extent that they probably get shared out to unwarranted individuals out there, people who don't need to be privy to that kind of information. It becomes absolutely dangerous. It's more like an artillery shell that's landing back in your own base, as Mr. Femi would know. So with regards to the operation that we undertook with Al-Shabaab across the borders, fairly much I'd attribute the success to the capacity, and basically in terms of capacity, I'm talking about the preparatory stage where a lot of information and intelligence was gathered that was absolutely exacting. Given that I was personally involved in some of those, I know the kind of very refined information that we did get out of what the enemy is all about, the capacity, where they were, and all sorts of things. And as regards the continuation in terms of the operational experiences thereof that were mounted back into the planning preparations that did, launch the actual operation. The actual operations there as well was also meticulously carried out. As you'd know, a multi-thronged attack that you are aiming at a very amorphous enemy like the terrorists need to be planned very meticulously, because against the backdrop of who they are and their posture and even organized in the first place, if there are slip-ups, then you get into a region where collateral damage is able to land into other things. Assuming you attacked a village where the terrorists have actually, emigrated from, and you ended up killing civilians, as Mr. Femi has actually said. So that kind of exacting information and intelligence is absolutely important. And then the way you configure the warfighting strategy, who basically get their names into the mission statement, and then what gets done and the whole activity that relates all these other efforts in relation to each other is absolutely important, because as we know in terms of what a basic strategy is, the who, what, and how things are done are absolutely important. So Kenya, as is said, of course, given that there were other troop contributing countries that went into that space in Somalia, the whole coordination within the whole gang total of the troop contributing countries and the forces therein have fairly much been, shot, given a pat on the back by the exacting plans and processes that went into the whole thing.
Because in all of this, sorry, it shows just one thing. Sorry to cut you there, because I'm actually trying to wind down. It shows just one thing, listening to both of you, that security is not a product, but a process. And both are currently at large in most parts of Africa, Kenya and Nigeria inclusive. Nations have had to depend on foreign forces for their safety. But again, one key thing here I pick from both of you is that information is key, and getting information from honest and true citizens of any country on the continent is so important. Well, many thanks, Air Vice Marshal Femi Gbadebo, and of course, Byron Adera. It's a wrap today on the show. I hope to see both of you again on this program. Many thanks for being such nice company. Bye-bye.